2 people, 2 months, $0 spent on marketing. That's the entire team and budget behind a game called Meccha Chameleon. And by the end of its first month on sale, it had outsold almost every other PC game released in 2026, pulling in an estimated $81 million. For one stretch in June, it was the second highest grossing PC game in the world, behind only Fortnite. Not behind Fortnite among indie games, behind Fortnite, period. Here's the part that gets skipped in almost every headline about it. 3 weeks after its peak, the number of people actually still playing it had dropped by nearly 90%. Not because the game failed, because the exact same things that made it explode, a mechanic anyone could clip, and an idea with no cost to copy, let free versions on other platforms eat its audience almost as fast as it built one. This video isn't really about whether Meccha Chameleon is a good game. It clearly struck a nerve. It's about something more useful to understand. Virality doesn't just make things grow fast anymore. It compresses the entire life cycle of a product, launch, peak, decline, into a matter of weeks for everyone involved, including the people copying you. We'll walk through 4 parts of that timeline: how fast it actually grew, why it grew that way, how it stacks up against what a game should cost to make a hit like this, and then the part most coverage leaves out, how fast it came back down, and who was waiting to catch the audience on the way down. Start with the timeline, because the speed is the whole story. Meccha Chameleon released on Steam on June 10th, 2026. It hit 5 million copies sold in 10 days. It crossed 7 million within 2 weeks. By day 16, it had passed 10 million. By day 26, under a month, it had sold 15 million copies, making it both the fastest selling and best-selling game of the year at that point, ahead of major releases like Resident Evil, Requiem, and Forza Horizon 6. Concurrent players, people actually logged in and playing at the same moment, peaked at 340,534, a couple weeks after launch. For context, that's a bigger simultaneous audience than most full AAA releases ever reach on Steam, from a game 2 people built. The premise is almost embarrassingly simple. You're a small robotic character, and you paint yourself with a color wheel and eyedropper tool to blend into the walls, floors, and objects around you, hiding in plain sight from whoever's hunting. It's $5.99. There's no console this doesn't run on comfortably, no complicated system to learn, no 100-hour campaign. You can understand what's happening in a Meccha Chameleon clip in about 2 seconds, which turns out to matter a lot for what happens next. The premise is almost embarrassingly simple. You're a small robotic character, and you paint yourself with a color wheel and eyedropper tool to blend into the walls, floors, and objects around you, hiding in plain sight from whoever's hunting. It's $5.99. There's no console this doesn't run on comfortably, no complicated system to learn, no 100-hour campaign. You can understand what's happening in a Meccha Chameleon clip in about 2 seconds, which turns out to matter a lot for what happens next. Big gaming YouTubers picked it up almost immediately and for free. The developer spent nothing to get in front of them. Canadian creator SMII7Y, with 8.75 million subscribers, was one of many who uploaded gameplay built around the game's infection mode. And because there's no publisher slowing things down, the developer, who goes by Lemorian_1224, pushed patches and new content almost daily, giving streamers a reason to keep coming back instead of moving on after one video. Low price, zero friction, content built into the core loop. That's the whole growth engine. No advertising line item required. To see how unusual that is, look at what it typically costs to build something with this kind of reach. A modern AAA game commonly runs $80 million to $300 million to make, with games released in the last couple years increasingly landing above $200 million. Development timelines run 3 to 5 years, with teams of hundreds of people. Marketing on top of that often equals another 30 to 50% of the entire budget, tens of millions of dollars, sometimes over $100 million, just to get people to notice the game exists. Meccha Chameleon. 2 people, 2 months, $0 marketing, $5.99 price tag, and an estimated $81.4 million in revenue inside its first 7 weeks, in the same neighborhood of money as an 808 release, without a single one of the usual ingredients. It's not the only recent game to pull this off either. Lethal Company, another indie breakout, reached an estimated $100 million gross. But it took roughly 3 months to get there, off a project that had been quietly building an audience for a long time before its breakout moment. Palworld sold over 12 million copies and peaked at 2.1 million concurrent Steam players. Bigger raw numbers, but from an established studio with years of development and an actual marketing push behind it. Meccha Chameleon matched or beat both on speed, with neither of those advantages. Here's the part almost none of the biggest game of the year coverage mentions. Sales are a one-time purchase. They don't measure who's actually still playing. And on that measure, Meccha Chameleon fell off a cliff almost as fast as it climbed. From that peak of 340,534 concurrent players in early to mid-July, the number was down to roughly 100,000 within about a month. And by late July, it had dropped further, to 42,482. That's a decline of somewhere around 85 to 90% from peak in a matter of weeks, while the total copies sold number everyone was quoting just kept climbing. So where did all those players go? A lot of them didn't quit playing this kind of game. They just moved to a free version of it. Near-identical clones started appearing almost immediately on Roblox and inside Fortnite's creative mode, where anyone can build and publish their own map. On Fortnite, player-made maps like Paint and Seek and Chameleon Hide and Seek recreate the exact camouflage mechanic, playable by anyone who already has Fortnite installed, which is to say, hundreds of millions of people, for free. Roblox saw an even bigger wave. Games like Backrooms, Chameleon, and Paint or Seek, direct copies of the core idea, started pulling tens of thousands of concurrent players each. At one point, Backrooms, Chameleon alone was pulling close to 50,000 concurrent players, and Paint or Seek another 37,000, two clones whose combined audience rivaled Meccha Chameleon's own concurrent numbers, on a platform that's already free, already on every kid's phone, and already open in the background. This isn't even the only example of the pattern this year. A separate Steam hit, Librarian, Tidy Up the Arcane Library, sold 1 million copies. Respectable, real success. Its Roblox clone, Clean the Library, has since pulled in 70 million visits and a peak of over 83,000 concurrent players, while the original Steam game is down to around 7,000 people playing at a time. Same shape, different genre. A paid original breaks out. A free copy shows up almost overnight on a platform already full of players, and the copy ends up with the bigger live audience. And legally, there's very little stopping any of this. Copyright protects specific creative expression, character art, exact assets, specific writing, not a game concept or genre. A hide-and-seek game where you blend into the scenery isn't ownable any more than the idea of a platformer or a battle royale is. So the clones aren't breaking the rules. They're just proving how little it now costs somebody else to build the same idea the moment it's shown to work. It's worth being careful here because the game died is the clean headline, and clean headlines oversimplify. Meccha Chameleon didn't fail. A $5.99 game that grossed roughly $81 million from a two-person team in under 2 months is, by almost any normal measure, one of the biggest success stories of the year. The sales already happened. That money isn't going anywhere. What actually happened is narrower and more interesting. The same conditions that let a tiny team reach a massive audience in days, a simple, instantly clonable idea, and platforms already holding a captive audience, apply just as easily to whoever copies you next. Speed cuts both ways. The developer got the fastest rise in recent gaming history. The free copies got a shortcut to a piece of the fastest decline. That's the pattern worth carrying into whatever's the next viral hit, in gaming or anywhere else. When something can grow this fast, it's usually because the barrier to reach an audience collapsed. No marketing budget required, no waiting for a publisher, no learning curve. But if the barrier to reach an audience collapsed for you, it collapsed for the next person too. The same speed that built your audience is available to whoever copies the idea a week later, especially if they're free and already sitting on a platform with hundreds of millions of daily users. The next time you see a fastest selling game ever headline, the more interesting question usually isn't how fast it grew. It's how fast something free and nearly identical could show up right behind it. In this case, the answer is about the same 6 weeks it took the original to become the story in the first place. Sales, concurrent player, and revenue figures in this video come from Steam tracking services and industry reporting, including Newzoo, ActivePlayer.io, and coverage from PC Gamer, Games Radar, and Kotaku. Full sources and exact numbers are linked in the description if you want to check the math yourself. If you want more of these, the moments where a headline turns out to be hiding a faster, weirder mechanism underneath, subscribe. New breakdown every few days, always built on real, checkable numbers.